What would you do if your HOA decided that your private property wasn't really yours, if they started acting like they had a right to it, inviting themselves in, throwing parties, and making decisions? Lick, you didn't even exist. That's exactly what happened to me when I bought my property. I thought I had found paradise, a beautiful, secluded lake, surrounded by towering trees, far enough from the city to be east, peaceful but close enough to still have modern conveniences. Best of all, the lake was entirely mine, legally, fully. Indisputably, it was written in the deed, recorded in county documents, and clearly marked Ed on every property survey. No shared ownership, no public access, just me and my private retreat. But peace doesn't last long when you live near an HOA, especially one run by a woman like Karen. From the moment I moved into HOA, board had their sights on my lake. They never outright said they want to take it from me, not at first. Instead, they try to be subtle at community meetings. Karen would casually mention how a beautiful natural feature like that should be shared, or how it's a shame only one person gets to enjoy it more. Then once she hinted that hosting neighborhood events at the lake would be such a generous thing to do, I always shut it down, making it clear that my property was not open for discussion that didn't sit well with Karen. Karen wasn't just any HOA president, she was the TYP. You saw herself as a ruler, the kind of woman who walked around with a clipboard issuing fines for things like slightly faded mailbox paint and lawn ornaments that weren't aesthetic. She had an opinion and about everything, and unfortunately my lake was high on her list. When the subtle hints didn't work, she escalated. I started receiving letters from the HOA about how community amenities should be available to everyone. I ignored them. Then I noticed people walking near the water's edge, strangers who claimed that Karen told them it was okay. That's when I realized this wasn't just about suggestions any more. Karen had no intention of stopping, and I was about to find out just how far she was willing to go. It wasn't long before Karen's efforts turned from annoying to outright deceptive. At first, it was just a few people wandering near the lake, acting like they were lost or just out for a casual stroll. But when I confronted them, they all said the same thing. Karen had told them the lake was part of THE neighborhood, and that as long as they were respectful, they had every right to enjoy it. That was the moment I knew she had taken this fight to a new level. I stormed over to her house, knocking hard on oof to make my point before she even opened the door. When she did, she greeted me with that smug little smile, as if she had been expecting me. I didn't waste time on pleasantries. I told her flat out that I owned the lake, that she had no right to tell anyone otherwise, and that if I caught anyone else trespassing, I'd be involving the authorities. She let out an exaggerated sigh, shaking her head like I was some unreasonable fool. You're being so difficult, she said, cross-ing her arms. It's just water. It's not like you even use it all the time. I took a step forward, leveling my voice. It's mine. Tease, all that matters. If you keep pushing this, you're going to regret it. She scoffed, waved her hand dismissively, and shut the door in my face. I should have known that wouldn't be the end of it. A week later, I got a letter in the mail, an official HOA violation notice. Apparently, I was being fined for failing to maintain a community amenity. My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might crack. The letter claimed that since the lake was an essential part of the neighborhood's character, I was in violation of HOA standards for not making it available for shared use. It listed two options: pay a $2,500 fine, or allow the HOA to take over maintenance of the lake for the benefit of the community. I actually laughed when I finished reading it. Karen had lost her mind if she thought this was going to work. She knew damn well the lake wasn't hers to control, but now she was flat out fabricating violations to force my hand. That wasn't just over, that was fraud. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. That night, I call my lawyer laying out everything from the trespassing to the bogus fine. He confirmed what I already knew. The HOA had zero legal standing, and their attempt to fine me for not sharing my own property was a complete joke. He drafted a response citing property law and warning them that if they didn't withdraw the violation notice, immediately they'd be facing a lawsuit. I sent the letter the next day and waited a few days later. I got a short-clipped email from the HOA board. The fine had been reviewed and dismissed. No apology, no explanation, just a quiet, desperate retreat. But Karen W. ASN done yet. She needed a new angle, a new way to push me into giving in. That's when she pulled her most underhanded move yet. She faked a community petition. She went door to door, telling homeowners she was gathering signatures for a neighborhood improvement initiative. Most people didn't think twice about signing. They assumed it was about things like better street lighting or more landscaping project. What they didn't realize was that Karen had worded the petition carefully, making it seem like the HOA was simply formalizing access to the lake as a shared neighborhood feature. In reality, she was trying to manufacture false evidence that the HOA had a historical claim to my property. I only found out when one of my neighbors, Mark, stopped me while I was checking my mail. Hey, he said, looking a little guilty, just wanted to ask, what's this about the lake becoming an HOA amenity? I saw my name on the petition, but I didn't think that's what I was signing for. My blood ran cold. I asked him to explain ND. As soon as I heard how Karen had tricked people, I knew exactly what she was planning. She wasn't just trying to pressure me. She was trying to create false proof that the lake was never really mine. And the first place I needed to shut this down before she got any further, because if I didn't, the next time I walked outside, I might find my private lake overrun with HOA members who believed they had a legal right to be there. I knew Karen was relentless, but I never expected her to be outright reckless. After her fake petition stunt failed, I thought she might back off for a while, but instead she doubled it down. She didn't just want access to my lake, she wanted control. And one morning she finally went too far. I stepped outside with my coffee, expecting a quiet morning, only to freeze mid-step. My private property had been turned into a full-blown neighborhood event. Cars were parked haphazardly across the grassy edge of my land, blocking the narrow path leading to the lake. A group of kids was splashing in the water, their parents lounging in camping chairs on my dock as if they owned the place. Smoke billowed from a barbecue station set up near the shoreline, the scent of sizzling meat filling the air. Coolers, blankets, lawn chairs. It looked like a damn festival. At first, I thought I was still dreaming, that maybe I had somehow stumbled into a nightmare where my land no longer belonged to me. But then I saw her, Karen. She stood at the center of it, all wearing an oversized sun hat and sipping lemonade like some kind of benevolent queen watching over her subjects. She wasn't stressed, wasn't even looking around like she knew she was doing something wrong. She was relaxed, comfortable, like this was how it was always meant to be. I stormed toward the dock, my voice cutting through the air like a whip. What the hell is going on? A man flipping burgers turned to me, raising an eyebrow. Karen said we could use the lake today for the HOA summer kickoff. He gestured toward the scene like I was the one out of plaque. It's a community space, right? My fists clenched at my sides. She told them it was a community space after all the warnings, after all the proof that this land belonged to me. She still had the audacity to claim my property as her own. I turned to Karen, who was watching me with thinly veiled irritation, as if I was the rude one for interrupting her perfect day. You can't just let people use my land. ISN. At my voice slow but seething, she rolled her eyes, waving a hand dismissively. Oh, calm down, she drawled. This is what neighbors do share. It's not like you even use the lake all the time. That was it, th. That was the moment. I knew there was no reasoning with her. I had been patient, I had been reasonable, and it had gotten me nowhere. Karen had lied, manipulated, and ignored every boundary, and now she had orchestrated a full invasion of my property. I took a deep breath, forcing my rage into something sharpened, focused. Fine, she wanted to treat my land like a public park. She was about to learn exactly what a peened in you parked illegally on private property. Without another word, I turned on my heel and walked back toward my house. I could feel Karen watching me, no doubt assuming I was going to sulk inside and let her. When she had no idea the moment I was through my front door, I picked up my phone and called the local towing company. How many cars? The dispatcher asked after I explained the situation. I stepped back outside, scanning the chaotic mess of vehicles crowding my property. At least 15, I said, my voice eerily calm. Possibly more. The dispatcher let out a low whistle. That's a big job, but yeah, if they're on your land without permission, we'll take care of it. Perfect. I leaned against my porch railing and waited, sipping my coffee as I watched people laugh, grill, and splash in my lake, completely unaware of what was coming. I even set up my security cameras because I already knew Karen would try to twist the story later, spinning herself as the victim. 15 minutes later, the first tow truck arrived, then another, and another. Engines rumbled as bright hazard lights flashed. The driver stepping out with quiet efficiency. They checked my property deed, confirming I was the legal owner, and then they got to work. One by one, cars were hooked up and hauled away, disappearing before anyone even noticed. Then a woman holding a margarita turned and let out a shriek as she saw a tow truck lifting her SUV and T. That was when all hell broke loose. The moment the first woman screamed, chaos erupted. Conversations died mid-sentence. Drinks were dropped, and within seconds, people were bolting toward their cars in a full LL blown panic. The guy grilling burgers abandoned his station and sprinted toward his minivan, arms flailing as a tow truck hoisted it onto its platform. A woman in a sun hat shrieked, wait, that's my car. She ran toward the truck, waving her arms, but the driver didn't even blink. Ma'am, your vehicle is illegally parked on private property. You can pick it up from the impound lot. Her jaw dropped. Impu. ND lot. Are you serious? More shouting, more chaos. People scrambled, yanking at car doors, trying to drive away before the tow trucks could get to them. A few managed to speed off just in time, kicking up due SD in their haste, but most weren't so lucky. And Karen, she was furious. I spotted her storming toward me, her lemonade abandoned, her face twisted. In rage, you're towing people, she screeched. I took a slow sip of my coffee. Sure, this is insane. You can't just. I held up a hand. Actually, I can. It's my property, and since you told everyone they could park here, I hope you're ready to help them pay their towing fees. The color drained from her face. She turned toward the angry crowd, who were no longer just panicked. They were furious. You told us we could park here, eh? Mun snapped. I just paid $350 to get my car back. A woman wailed. Karen stammered, glancing around as if searching for a lifeline, but there was nowhere to hide. Her loyal HOA members were now her victims, and they weren't happy. That's when she Ade, her final disastrous mistake. In a last-ditch effort to regain control, she pulled out her phone and called the cops. I almost laughed. She really thought she could spin this in her favor. When the police arrived, they stepped out of their cruiser and took one look at the scene. Furious residents, tow trucks hauling off the last few vehicles. Karen looking like she was about to explode. The OFFI sighed, already exhausted before the conversation even started. Sir, do you own this property? Yep. The officer nodded, glancing at the chaos behind me. And these vehicles, were they parked here without our permission? Yep. He turned to Karen, his expression unreadable. Ma'am, this is private property. He has every legal right to remove, move, unauthorized Vehicles Karen opened and closed her mouth like a fly. Gasping for air, but the HOA has. Always the officer held up a hand. Already done with her. Nonsense, this has nothing to do with the HOA. It's his land. You and your members have no legal right to be here. Silence, that was the moment at all. Crumbled for Karen. People weren't angry at me any more. They were angry at her. A man clenched his jaw, so I got towed because Karen lied. Another woman crossed her arms. You said we were allowed here, Karen. Now I'm out. $400. Karen stammered, floundering for an excuse, but the HOA members weren't buying it anymore. She had manipulated them, cost them real money, and now the cops had confirmed she had no legal authority. It got worse for her when one of the officers asked, "Ma'am, did you organize this event?" Karen swallowed hard. "Well, because if so, that means you are responsible for misleading these people onto private property." I swear I saw the exact moment she realized she was screwed. The cops didn't arrest her, but they took a full report and made it clear the if any of these people wanted to sue for damages, they had every right to. One by one, the HOA members stormed off, some still cursing under their breath. The summer kickoff party was over, all thanks to Karen's ego. As the last car was dragged away, I saw someone mutter under their breath, "I'm filing a complaint with the HOA board. She's got to go." I leaned back against my porch railing, watching the all unfold. Karen's reign was starting to crumble, and I had front row seats to the show. Karen wasn't the type to admit defeat easily after the towing fiasco. Most people would have cut their losses and oved on, but she was too arrogant for that. Instead, she tried to spin the entire thing as my fault. The very next morning, an email from the HOA landed in my inbox, a mass message sent to every resident. It was a masterpiece of delusion. Karen painted herself as the victim, claiming that I had overreacted to a friendly neighborhood gathering and aggressively disrupted a community event by having cars towed. She even threw in some nonsense about how my actions were divisive and damaging to the spirit of neighborly unity. The problem was no one was buying it anymore. Within hours, a chain of furious replies. Lou dead. The HOA message board. "Karen, you told us we could park there. Why didn't you check first?" "So I'm out. $350 because you lied. This is completely unacceptable. You need to fix this." It was glorious care, and it spent years wielding power over the HOA like a dictator, but now her own people were turning against her. And then came the final nail in her coffin, the legal notice from my lawyer. I had decided to go on the offensive. My lawyer sent a formal cease and assist letter to Karen and the HOA board, making it crystal clear that they had zero rights to my land. It detailed the trespassing incidents, Karen's false claims, and her blatant attempts to manipulate homeowners into believing they had access. It also came with a warning: if anyone so much as set foot near my lake again, would press charges. The HOA board, which had never been particularly fond of Karen's heavy-handed leadership, saw the writing on the wall. She had cost dozens of members real money, nearly dragged the HOA into a lawsuit, and now she had put the entire association at risk. At the next meeting, things exploded. One homeowner stood up and publicly called for her removal, stating that she had misled the entire neighborhood and exposed to legal trouble. Another demanded an audit of HOA funds, suspecting Karen had used them to print those fake lake access flyers she had passed out weeks earlier. It didn't take long. A vote was called. Karen was officially removed as HOA president, and just like that, the reign of terror was over. It didn't take long for Karen to pack up and leave. After that, a few weeks later, one of her old HOA allies admitted, rather awkwardly, that she had sold her house and moved away. Apparently, she couldn't handle the humiliation of being dethroned. Good riddance with K and gone. The HOA went radio silent. No more. Editors no more. Nonsense, no more entitled. Demand just peace, but I wasn't about to. Let history repeat itself, I had taller. Fences installed, security cameras set up, and motion sensor lights rigged around. The dock I even put up legally binding. No trespassing signs with clear warnings. Of prosecution. Since then, not a single HOA member has dared set foot near my lake. The funniest part, every once in a WHI, I hear the HOA is struggling to find a new president. Seems like no one wants to take Karen's old job. Wonder why. So what? Do you think was this the pettiest revenge ever, or did Karen get exactly what she deserved? Have you ever dealt with an HOA nightmare like this? Drop your stories below. I'd love to hear who had it worse.